All right, so as we look and take a glance at your worksheet from Friday that we started, if you'll remember correctly, I asked that you finish it for homework. Many of you finished it before you left here. Okay, you just had to do 1, 2, and 3. Okay, quick review. If I remember correctly, we did the first 3 up here. Okay, big B, little b, H-O or H-E, big B, little b, H-E, good, Stephen, big D, big D. All right, as a class, I want to hear it. Big T, little t.
Big T, little t.
Is it H-E or H-O? H-E, that was a little better. All right, here, now that you know what I expect. Big F, little f.
H-E.
Little b, little b. Little t, little t. Big B, big B. Big B. Big B. Yeah. Sorry. All right. Little d, little d. Big F, little f. Or I'm sorry, big F, big F. Okay. Trying to trick you there. Okay. We went through purebred. Does purebred mean same or different? Same. Okay, and you should have all of the ones that were the same listed there. I believe we did that together on Friday, right? Okay, hybrid means different. Okay. Number 2, it was asking you to point out the phenotype. What does phenotype mean? What does phenotype mean, Michael?
That means what the gene is.
Okay, or what it actually looks like. Okay, so when we look at number 2, we said yellow body is dominant to blue, so big Y looks yellow. Okay, big Y looks, and little y looks. Okay, so what about when square is dominant to round? Big S. One person, raise your hand. Tell me what big S looks like. Emily, square. All right, big S looks like what, Cameron? Square, and little s looks like what, Rachel? Round. Okay, is everybody good on 1 and 2? Any questions? All right, let's take a look at number 3. We're doing the opposite that we did for number 2. So instead of taking the genotype and labeling phenotype, we're going to take the phenotype and label it with genotypes. So a tall head is dominant to short head. What were the genotypes for tall? Kaylee?
Big T, little t, big T, big T.
Very good. And what were the genotypes for short? Tyler?
Little T, little t.
Good. Now let's look at pink body is dominant to a yellow body. Pink body is dominant to yellow body. So what's the genotype for a pink body? Steven? Okay. The genotype, so the letter combination for both. So it'd be, okay, big P, little p would be 1. Okay, and then, are there any other ones? Big P, and notice I'm trying to make it obvious the difference between the two. Okay, what about yellow body? Emily? It'd be little p, little p. Okay. Any questions on 1, 2, or 3? All right, good. Now just put your homework to the side. We're going to come back to it. Okay, now that we've got some practice with that vocabulary, we're going to start talking about Punnett squares and determining probability. So as I established on Friday, you all had a chance or a probability of getting the traits that you did. So some of you have a 100% chance that you are to have crooked pinkies or straight pinkies. Okay? Some of you are going to have a 50-50 chance that you are going to roll your tongue. Some of you are going to have a 75% chance of not having dimples. Okay? So every single trait that you have, there was a chance that you could get it. Okay, now, with that being said, because there was that chance, okay, it all depends on who? your parents, okay, and what types of genes they had. Okay, it all depends on whether they were heterozygous for that trait or homozygous for that trait. Okay, so with that being said, we're going to take a look at the probability of certain traits, and we're just going to get a start on it today. Okay, and the tool we're going to use is called a Punnett Square. It was named after a gentleman named William Punnett. Imagine that. Okay, and he's the one that created this idea of we can figure out what the percentage is that we'll get certain traits. Okay, so you have 6 steps on your notes. They're already written there for you, and we're going to go through each step. Okay, now like math, and I don't know how Mr. O runs his classroom, but when I taught math, okay, you at least had to do one example where you wrote out every single step. Okay, so that you had a model of every single step. Now, some of you have shortcuts. Some of you learn your own shortcuts. Sometimes Mr. O might teach you a shortcut. Okay? But with that being said, the first time we do it, we're going to write out every single step. Okay? From there, if you find some shortcuts, we'll go there. Okay? All right. So, first thing you need to do is we need to write down the problem. So, on your notes where you see that it says example, let's go ahead and let's write down this problem. I want you to write down the whole thing, and I'm going to add just a little thing on the end. Okay? And we're going to just make sure that we know we're talking about tall is dominant. So you're writing this problem down right now. Tall is dominant to short. All right, so where it says example, you're writing this down. So we've got the problem written out for us. Write out the whole problem, Johnny. Okay, there's a reason I underline what I underline. That means that it goes in your notes. This goes on your notes page, Timothy. Get out your notes page. Okay. Can somebody, well, we've got a few people finishing up writing it. I need somebody to go ahead and read step number 1 for me. If you'll read step 1. Go ahead, Miss Rachel.
Dominant is the genotype of
Determine.
Determine the genotype of the plant organism.
All right, so do we know what our parents are going to look like in this problem? It says cross 2 organisms with the following genotype. Big T, and little t, little t. So do we know what our parents are going to be? Okay, they're going to be tall and short. So we're going to write step 1. Okay, go ahead, and it's already done for you, but we're going to go ahead and write it out. Step 1, it's already done for you, and I want you to write that out. Okay, step 1, this step is already done for you. Sometimes it'll be done for you, and sometimes it won't.
Come to the front office, please. Kyle Castanelli, come to the front office.
All right, and you're writing that out. So I want to see on your paper, step 1. This is already done for you, and then you can draw an arrow to it. Just like I said, we're going to write out every step this first time just to make sure it's clear. Sometimes the problem will tell you you have a heterozygous tall and a short plant. That's where you'll say, okay, heterozygous tall is big T, little t, and short is little t, little t. So that's where you'll have to apply some of those steps from number 1, 2, and 3 to get started. All right, somebody read step 2 for me on your Punnett Square notes there. Riley, go for it.
Write down your cross.
All right, write down your cross. So we're going to do that. Okay, so step 2. Okay, you're just going to write big T, cross with little t, little t. Okay, so you're already probably seeing step 1 and step 2 are very similar. This is a step you can probably combine, and I'll trust that you can combine that on your own. Okay, but we just need to make sure that we're setting up our problem correctly. All right, step 3. Somebody go ahead and read step 3 for me. Go for it, Kaylee.
Draw a P-square.
All right, draw a P-square. Now my rule with the P-square when you draw it, okay, you want to make sure that you have room above it, room below it, and that you can write in each one of those boxes. So I don't care how big you make it, as long as you've got room on the side, room on the top, and that you can write in each one of those boxes. So you make it as big as it needs to be to fit those requirements. All right, so step 3, we're just drawing our box. It's like a windowsill. You've got room on the top, room on the side. Make sure it's big enough that you can at least write some letters on the inside. So there's step 3. All right, somebody read step 4 for me. Don't all jump at once. Step 4. Go for it, Miss Tabor.
Split the letters of the genotype for each parent and put them outside the P-square.
All right, so what we're going to do, and the reason we're leaving some space there, okay, as we look at step 4, you're going to take those parents, so you're going to take big T, little t, it's just right here, and we're going to split it, and we're going to make sure that we've got 1 at each row. Okay, then you're going to take little t, and you're going to make sure you've got it at each column. Now, I will tell you this. It doesn't matter where you put it. It would have been okay if little t went on the side, okay, as long as the whole genotype is on one side. Okay? All right. So step 4. And you might just want to jot down for step 4, okay, label the square. So while you're doing this on the same Punnett square, you might just want to make a note, and I suggest you do that. Step 4, label the square. All right, step 5. I need somebody to read step 5 for me. All right, go for it, Tyler Little.
Determine the possible genotypes of the offspring by filling in the P-square.
All right, so we're going to fill it in. It's very similar to a multiplication table. So we're going to look at what's above it and what's to the side of it. So as we look for this first box right here, okay, as we look at what's above it? Little t, what's to the side of it? Big T, what's our rule? What always comes first? The big one, so we would have a big T and a little t. All right, what about this next box right here? What's above it? What's to the side of it? Big T, so what goes in there? Big T, little t again. All right, our next box right here. What's above it? What's to the side of it? All right, so we've got little t, little t. And our last box here. All right, our last box. What's above it? What's to the side of it? All right, so we filled in our boxes. Everybody with me? Any questions? Okay, rule is to always remember it doesn't matter, okay? It doesn't matter if you're looking at the top or the side first. If you have one capital letter, it always comes first, okay? Step 5, so as we walk through here. So that's step 5, and I would just write step 5. Fill in boxes, or fill in inside. Whatever's going to help you remember it. All right. Step 6. Somebody read step 6 for me. Go ahead, Mason. Step 6.
Summarize the results.
All right. We're going to summarize the results. So step 6. Now there's 2 things you have to have. You need to summarize the genotypes. So go ahead. We're going to summarize. So we're going to summarize the genotypes. And we're going to summarize the phenotypes. So 2 things we've got to summarize. Go ahead and label them. All right, so we're summarizing what's on the inside. So can somebody tell me one of the genotypes that's on the inside of the square? Michael, what's one of the genotypes?
Dominant and recessive.
I need to know the actual genotype.
Capital T, lowercase t.
All right, capital T, lowercase t. How many capital T, lowercase t's are there in the P-square page? There's 2. 2 out of 4, which is what percentage? 50%. So that's the first thing. 50% big T, little t. All right, what else is in there?
50% little t, little t.
50% little t, little t. Questions on genotype? All right, now I need to know phenotypes. What are these plants going to look like? What are they going to look like? Tabor? All right, big T, little t, but what does that actually look like? It's not going to have a badge on it that says big T, little t. Okay, so big T, little t is going to be what, Shay? Tall. So 50% of the plants are tall. And what about little t, little t? 50% short. Okay, so what that means, if we cross these 2 plants, there is a 50-50 chance that the plant that's produced is going to be tall or short. Okay, so I'm going to take, and I want you to work on your own. You can work with a shoulder buddy or with your table. You're going to try one on your own, so it's your turn. Okay, so flip it over to the back of your notes. You should have room there. All right, so the back of your notes. The problem is, and let me jump down here to the problem. All right, you're going to cross, okay, big B, and big B, little b. And you need to go ahead and write black fur is dominant to white fur. Black fur is dominant to white fur. And go ahead and work on it on your own. Since I'm recording, I'm going to go ahead and pause it. And then that'll give you some time to work on it. All right, taking a look at how you set them up for the most part. Okay, it took some of you a little bit more time to set it up. But once you got it, you started to flow with it. So your setup, let's double check your setup. Okay, and I'm still looking at several of you that don't have your parents labeled on the outside. Okay, so you need to make sure that you've got these parents labeled on the outside so you don't get messed up. And if you do get messed up, That's where I come into play and I say, okay, we didn't. How much?
50%.
Oh, I see which. All right, and we should have 25% big B, big B. Okay, so they all add up to 100. We got 2 of those. I'm not sure if we said it right or not, but that's the fix. Okay, so we've set up our problem. We've got genotypes. Now let's look at phenotypes. What are these cats going to look like? Let's just go through it real quick. Big B, what's it going to look like, class? Black. Big B, little b. Big B, little b. Little b, little b. All right, so what's our phenotypes there and what's our percentages? Addie?
25% white fur and 75% black.
Good. Okay. White fur, 25% white fur, 75% black fur. Here is a prime example where your phenotypes don't necessarily match your genotypes. Okay, you've got different percentages, but both of them add up to 100%. Okay, all right, let's take a look, and we're going to go from here. We are going to go to our SpongeBob worksheet, and we're going to look at number 4. All right, I'm going to read number 4 to you, so follow along with me. Okay, SpongeBob SquarePants recently met Sponge Susie Roundpants at a dance. SpongeBob is heterozygous for his square shape, but Sponge Susie is round. Create a Punnett square to show the possibilities that would result if SpongeBob and Sponge Susie had children. All right, going back, and it says, hint, read question number 2. Which one's dominant, square or round? Looking at number 2 real quick. Square is dominant. Okay, now we're going to underline the important facts about the parents. SpongeBob is what?
Heterozygous.
He's heterozygous, and Sponge Susie is round, so I've underlined those. Okay, if SpongeBob is heterozygous, what's his genotype? Michael?
Big S, little s.
All right, big S, little s, and it doesn't matter which side we put him on. I'm just going to put him on the top of that Punnett square. Notice I'm making it obvious the difference between big and little. Okay, if Sponge Susie is round, what is her genotype? Little s, little s. Steven, you're on a roll today. That's good. Okay. All right, fill in your Punnett square. I'm filling in mine there. I'm looking what's above and what's below. Okay. Are there any questions how I filled in my Punnett square? All right. So looking at A, it says list the possible genotypes and phenotypes for their children. So for part A, what are the possible genotypes in my box there? Michael?
Capital S, lowercase s, and 2 lowercase s's.
Good. And what about my phenotype? And notice I'm just, to save space, I'm putting P. What are my possible phenotypes, Michael?
Round and square.
Round and square. All right, now number 4, it says, or 4B, it says, what are the chances of a child with a square shape? How many of those are going to be squares, Stephen? 2 out of 4, which are 50%. Which ones are going to be squared? Which genotype?
Big S, little s.
Big S, little s. Good. And what are the chances of a child with a round shape? Go for it, Stephen.
2 out of 4, 50%.
Good. Okay, now your job for homework. Okay, your job for homework. I want you to do number 5, 6, and 7. Now you have a different assignment than second hour. Okay, so you're going to do 5, 6, and 7 for homework. So go ahead and circle those. Okay. And if you have any questions, you may ask.